Hey guys, welcome to JasonWhiskyWise, and myself, Jason, bringing you whiskey review number 50, where today we're going to review the Balvenie 12-year-old Doublewood. And I'm actually going to work my way through the Balvenie core range, as I decided we've just finished off a little bit of our Japanese segment, whilst I actually go and find the 18s, 25s, and hopefully pick up some more Japanese whiskies. But in the meantime, I'm going to work my way through a couple ranges of whiskey, starting off with the Balvenie, as I have reviewed all the travel retail whiskies for them, and I decided let's do some of their core range. So we got these samples from a tweet tasting, and I thought may as well put them to use as they were quite healthy sized samples. So let's begin. I poured myself a dram just to let it air for a little while, and we'll begin with the actual review style structure. So the age on this whiskey, it is a 12-year-old whiskey. It has an ABV of 40% on this specific one in particular, but I also do have a bottle at home which is a 43% ABV, so 43 and 40, there are combinations. In terms of the cask selection they use actually two types of cask, thus the name Doublewood. And you have the traditional whiskey oak cask, and you also have the sherry oak cask. So you've got the two that come together and make the 12 Doublewood, and they also have a 17 Doublewood, which I'll get into as I talk about the range. But in terms of the distillery, it is the Balvenie Distillery, which you can see over there, and they are owned by the parent company, William Grant & Sons, and they are located in Dufftown, Speyside, Scotland, just over there. So if you are going to Dufftown, I think you've got Glenfiddich, which is a sister distillery, Balvenie, Kinninvie, all very close, all owned by William Grant. So, in terms of the actual pricing point of view for that bottle there, we're looking at close to around about, say, between 30 to 36 pounds for the full-size bottle, which is really great stuff, because I have actually seen it on offer at Waitrose for 25 pounds, which I was just literally like, I had to buy a bottle, and then I brought the bottle back, this was like around a couple of weeks ago, and a couple of my friends finished it off whilst we were just sitting there, and I was just like, now what am I going to do for the review? And luckily, these samples came to hand. So, let's get into the review. In terms of exclusivity, it's not exclusive. It is part of the core range, which consists of the 12 Doublewood, a 14 Caribbean cask, a 17 Doublewood, and a 21-year-old Portwood, which I've actually got just behind the camera. So you'll actually see that when I get to the review. But, so that's the core range of Balvenie. And in terms of the caramel colouring, I know the travel retail stuff has all caramel colour added for consistency, but in this one's, I didn't see it on any of my bottles, so I'm going to say 50-50 I'm going to go with, but more or less I'm going to go with no, because it doesn't state it on my Portwood, so I'm going to go with no in terms of caramel colour. So that begins, we'll have to start with assessing the colour, and I'll show you guys that one over there. It does have a very nice healthy colour to it, look at that. And if that is natural colour, it's a very nice extraction from the cask they use. So I'm going to go with a nice healthy amber in this one, as it does look quite nice and rich. So let's next move into the actual nosing, so into the nose. So my initial impressions off the actual nose of this whiskey, it does start quite nice, sweet with those fruitier notes, and it's more or less the classic house style of Balvenie. I'm starting off with a little bit of honey. I'm getting a little bit of what reminds me of orange peel, but not so bitter. This is more towards a very fresh orange. I'm getting a bit of hints of sun-dried sultanas, a little bit of apricot, and then I was picking out a slight note of honeydew melon, giving a little bit of a fresher sort of summery appeal to it as well. I'm also getting red apples over there in the back. And there's lots of apples actually, lots and lots of red apples in a basket, sort of very ripe and sort of bursting with flavour, and a little bit of poached pears right behind that. And a slight sweet tobacco note just on the end there, just holding it off. And that's something I noticed by leaving it longer. It actually develops a little bit more of those sweeter notes as you leave it. So it does breathe quite well with this whiskey. So next, let's move into the palate. So into the palate, we start off with a very light arrival on the palate in terms of texture. It doesn't actually develop at all, but then you're greeted with the spices which really make themselves known. Cinnamon, a little bit of nutmeg, and a mouth-warming gingery spice which just sort of rolls all over the palate. A little bit of honeysuckle, giving that soft floral note with a sweeter side of notes as well. And a sort of soft, very mild oaky character, which you can feel just sort of sink into the taste buds. And then it develops with a little bit of citrusy, very rich blood oranges and nutty character as well. So I'm going to a little bit source out those nutty character notes, but let's have a second tasting. Whoa. So, second tasting. Those nutty characters reveal themselves in the presence of walnuts. A little bit oily. Raisins, very sweet raisins now. Almost like you're opening a packet of those raisins, but these are sweeter. And no real bite, just very soft. A little bit of vanilla which develops over there at the end. And then quite a lot of dried fruits soaked in honey. Just really sweetening out the sides and just literally lingering around the back of the palate. Really, really enjoyable stuff. So next let's move into the finish and we'll come to our conclusion on the Balvenie 12 Doublewood. So into the finish. So into the finish for this whiskey, it does have what I'd say is more towards a medium finish. You've got those spices still present, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of a peppery spice as well, leaving a slight oaky character and a lot of citrus orange zest, which develops also with a bit of a nutty character as well. So combination of the two. And honey just sort of lingering all around the palate, just literally giving you that sweetness and sort of ending on the sweeter note, which is literally still rolling on my palate, which I'm really finding so enjoyable. So I'm going to give my rating now for this whiskey, and it's a very, very easy rating to give this whiskey. I would give it higher, and I'll explain that in just a second. So I'm going to give it an 86 out of 100. Reason behind that, I think it's an absolute superb whiskey. If you're buying this as a gift for someone who doesn't drink whiskey, if there's someone who's a complete entry level to whiskey, or someone who's an expert, a connoisseur, I think everyone will enjoy this whiskey. It's something that I personally really enjoy, the house style of Balvenie, which is being the sort of notes of fruity notes, the spicy notes, and the sweeter notes, which just all combine so well together. And that citrus character, which remains consistent throughout, it is just so enjoyable. So on that sort of note, and at the same time, the pricing point of view, recently £25 is an absolute steal. Even up to around about £40, I'd say this is a very good buy. And just really, really good whiskey. That's one thing I really found quite nice. Only thing I'm also a bit unsure about is a caramel colouring, and also there's a 43% version. So I'd like to do the 43% and do a comparative test with this one. But in terms of does it need water, maybe if you want to add a little bit of water you can, but the 40% is just perfect how it is. I have heard if you add ice to this one, it does change it completely, which I might test because I've got this and I'm going to go buy another bottle when I go to shopping next time. So I might pick up another bottle of this and then try them together and see how it works out. But on that note, I would buy another bottle, and I'm going to wrap the video up on that. So be sure to check out, I'll leave the 14, 17 and the 21 when I upload them. But be sure to click my subscribe button over there so you can stay up to date. We're very close to 200 subscribers at this moment in time. So fingers crossed we can hit that by this weekend. But on that note, this has been JasonWhiskyWise, and I'll catch you all for the next video.